Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump, and we got our first ever mailbag of the John Harbaugh era, the first mailbag of the offseason. January is so busy, we didn't even have a time to fit in a mailbag, which I love in-season mailbags. Off-season mailbags might be my favorite episodes of the month because, I mean, we just get to hit a bunch of different topics, get to do some deep dives and some stuff. And we get to ask you a question, a clickbaity question. Grump, how you doing?
Doing pretty well, Bobby. Love mailbags in the off season as well. I think that this is where a lot of like the most interesting discussion usually happens. Not to say that mailbags aren't interesting in season. It's just that it's kind of like I was already thinking in this direction because of whatever game that just happened or whatever. Whereas like now there's almost limitless topics to kind of really put your brain into overdrive thinking about. So it's really cool to just field a bunch of different questions. We have great questions this week, and I also just really enjoyed listening to you and Ryan Dunleavy earlier this week. Great episode. A lot of insight from Ryan.
Yeah, good stuff. And obviously the combine coming up next week. So we should be getting a couple good episodes out of that and trying to get some information. I think we're doing two because no breaking Big Blue this week. I think there's two next week as Jordan's from the combine. So
Hmm.
all right, let's get into this episode first. This episode was brought to you by some special people. We got Sean Ruppert or Rupert, Supper. Will
Ruh-roh.
Pascal, not Will Pascal Siakam, Luke H, and the H stands for heroic. John Freer, he hit a deer. Luke Shetzkel, Schechtel, I got it right, one of those. Big Blue 56. Might have already done these names, but who cares? Do it again. You know we have, because I mentioned Brett. Do you know a Brett? And we all know a Brett.
We all know a Brett.
We already did some of these names, but who are these very special people that some of we've already done?
All of these Brits went to patreon.com/Giants Nation and signed up for one of the 2 tiers available to make shows like this one possible. They receive stickers in the mail from Bobby Skinner. They get entered into a monthly free t-shirt raffle. They're also uh, there's a possibility of winning Jordan Ronan's new book. And they get access
Somebody
to
just
hang out.
did.
Oh yeah, someone. So there you go. A Patreon. One of our new Brets just won Jordan Ronan's book.
Yeah, we just did a raffle. Jimmy Busel won the book, so
Everybody
start
knows a
there.
guy named Jimmy. Um,
His name is Jamie, which could be Jimmy.
oh,
If you
Jamie. Oh man, I screw everything up, don't I? In any event, they get to hang out during live recordings of episodes just like this one, and they get weekly game tape breakdowns during the season from Bobby Skinner. And most importantly, they were all glad that they did.
You'll be glad that you did. We got to do giant stories later at the end of the episode as well, too. All right, take it away, Steve.
Mail time.
Mail time. The mail's here. Come on.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Thanks, Steve from Blues Clues Grump. Let's get into the mail.
First letter in Santa's mailbag for Bobby Skinner at Ghost and BK. What would you need in return to trade Kayvon Thibodeaux? Does having Abdul and a need for more draft capital make you more willing to trade him? This is a really interesting question.
Yeah, so, and I even put out a poll, and it was pretty close to 50-50, and I'll look that up in a second where those results are at. And I talked with Patricia Shane on her show. I think we talked about it a little bit towards the end of the season and, have a tweet here and there about Kayvon and being like, yeah, I think it's going to be one of the more tricky things of the offseason because, he coming off injury, blah, 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 all this. He's, 1 year left on his deal. And I have like a full conclusion where I'm like, this is simply where I am, which is a kind of a two-sided part of it, but just fully, this is what I think the Giants should do with Kayvon. So, like I said, he has 1 year left on his rookie deal. He missed the last 7 games of 2025. He also missed 5 games the year before. The Giants, if they did trade him, would save $15 million in cap space with no dead cap if traded. So it's like, what would you trade him for? This is where I'm at, and I'm going to talk about why what dollar amount I want to get to, but this is where I would go, Grump. The Giants are in good cap health going forward. Obviously, they're going to need to move around money to do this offseason, but they have a lot. They have $128 million of cap space in 2027. That's obviously going to go down by quite a bit over the next month. They have over $200 million in 2028. Like, that's one thing Schoen has done good. He doesn't have a bunch of bad contracts on the cap or a bunch of void years or anything. So I would try and sign Kayvon Thibodeaux now. I want to keep Kayvon Thibodeaux. I would like to sign him. We'll talk about the dollar amount and how I get to it in a little bit. But if he doesn't sign this offseason, I am trading him this offseason as well, too. So I'm actually putting a little bit of a deadline. Maybe you don't say that to Kayvon because he thinks, he might think being traded somewhere else gives him a better opportunity to cash in free agency next year. But I'm not letting him get into the open market. Like, I would very much be like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to offer you this. If not, you're probably not going to be in our future plans because we don't see ourselves going higher than this. I think we know what he is overall as a player. He's a streaky pass rusher. He's a good run defender, but he's not even really a starter on this team going forward. If he doesn't sign now, I'm trading him this offseason for if I can get a day 2 pick. It would have to be a day 2 pick, and so we'll break that all down. But that's where I land. Try and sign him now, extend him now. If he does not accept your offer, your best offer, then just trade him because I'm not letting this go to free open market free agency.
I like that answer. I mean, I didn't really look that in depth into it and exploring possibilities of re-signing him and stuff. I just kind of took it at face value. And if I just, am answering the phone from other teams, essentially, just looking at it like that. And I don't know, maybe this is kind of a stupid answer, but if teams, I kind of am in the position where I just want a 25-year-old starter at a position of need. I want a player swap. There's all this panic over draft capital and whatever, but right now, this team is in flux. This roster is in flux. You're changing schemes and philosophies on both sides of the ball. This is a total revamp of what you've got. And right now, they are bad at stopping the run. They're bad at it. And Kayvon is pretty good at it. So just I don't feel if I'm in charge, I'm in this position to just be giving away, and I understand you get something in return, but giving away good run defenders right now. I just don't what are you going to get if you trade him away for I'm not talking about what your plan is, obviously, to prioritize retaining him for whatever value he does have. And, maybe reconciling that first round pick value with what he actually is. And what he offers, right? That's perfect. I agree with that. But in terms of actually just giving him away, if you're just going to trade him for a draft pick, right? What are you going to do with that draft pick this year? I know the Giants don't have a 3rd round pick. What are you going to do? Get a run defender? What is the point of this? You're in a very high likelihood that your 3 best impending free agents are probably gone between Illuminor, Robinson, and Flott. Then you're just going to trade away a 4th good player that you have for the possibility of getting a good player. I understand that Kayvon is much more replaceable with the addition of Abdul Carter, but Abdul Carter is far, far, far from a finished product for 2026. And I know we don't want to let Kayvon just hit the open market and get quote unquote nothing in return, but maybe what you get in return is really just you get another year out of him while you continue to recycle this whole thing. If we weren't in the middle of a whole regime change, maybe I would feel more compelled to get a lot more from him, but I don't know. If some team comes calling, I'm looking at their roster sheet and seeing what 25-year-old linebackers they have, what 25-year-old wide receivers they have, offensive linemen. I'm looking for a player swap at this point if someone comes calling me.
It's just hard to find an even player for player swap. You don't really see those. It's you're getting a pick plus a player, right? So you're either getting a lesser player, or if the Giants wanted to trade for a better player and then Kayvon plus whatever pick that we were trading away, which I don't see the Giants being on that end of it. So Here's the thing, though. Let's talk about him overall as a player. Like, I think he is a streaky pass rusher, and I think that's what he's always going to be in the NFL. I don't think he's ever going to really develop much more than that, where he's a solid pass rusher. He's not great. He's not even close to being top 2 on his own team for the defensive end spot. Like, he started off really well last year. The first 4 games, 2.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 9 pressures with the good run defense. The last 6 games, and he only played 10 games, 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 14 pressures. So that's not good pass rush production. That's a low point, right? That's very low pass rush production for a 6-game sample size. But he has top 5 name recognition, plus is very business savvy. So here's where where I worry with him is like, are you going to be able to get a reasonable deal done for the type of player that he is? Because Micah got 46 average annual value, 46 mil. Hutchinson got 45. We know he's not getting near that, right? Aiden Hutchinson being from his draft class, not getting anywhere near that. George Karlaftis, though, from the same draft class, he got 22 million per year in average annual value. And George Karlaftis has been like a flat out better player than Kayvon. Right? Like he has been a better player in the NFL than Kayvon Thibodeaux. And there's some people in Kansas City who already don't like that contract. Greg Rousseau, who I think is a comparable player, he got $20 million per year. So this is again a guy who is your 3rd guy in that rotation. Like he isn't like, I want to have a 3-man rotation. The Giants have done it successfully, but he is the guy who is the clear 3rd in there, right? It's not all things are equal between 1, 2, and 3. Like I think Brian Burns and Abdul Carter are just flat out clearly better players than Kayvon Thibodeaux. Even though Kayvon gives you some good run defense. So I think that gives you some power from a negotiating standpoint as the Giants, right? Where you get to tell them like, hey, dude, you're going into a contract year as the clear-cut 3rd guy. Right? Like let's get this done now. And if not, then I would look for a day 2 pick. If the only thing you get back is a 4th round pick, then I am just letting it play out. I even went and like over the last 4 years, looked at like the best 4th round picks. Last year, it's too early to say last year. It's like Cam Scatterboo, Billy Bowman, Woody Marks, Eric Alamanor, or whatever the guy's name is from Stanford with the Titans. 2024, you got Bucky Irving, Tanner Bordellini, Evan Williams, Brandon Dorless, AJ Barner, Theo Johnson, Dadrian Taylor Demerson. 23 is pretty terrible. You got Nick Herbig, Chamari Connor, and then Isaac McGuire. 2022 probably is the best group. Zach Tom, Isaiah Likely, Kobe Durant, Jake Ferguson, Cade Otton, and Romeo Dobbs. So, like, certainly I would take a lot of those players, or not a lot, some of those players over Kayvon Thibodeaux. But, like, I'm not trading for a 4th round pick to have the opportunity to maybe get, one of those guys at best. So it would have to be a day 2 pick. And even then I would feel a little bit dirty about it, because here's the thing is I don't think you're going to get a comp pick from Kayvon if he does walk in free agency. Because, they could likely, whatever contract he gets, net around a 4th round pick or something. But here's the Giants 2027 pending or the 2027 pending free agents. It'd be only Kayvon, because there's nobody from the 23 draft class that will get you anything. John Runyon, Jameis Winston, and maybe Bobby Okereke, right? If they don't cut him now. So I just think the Giants will spend more money than they get. So that's where I'm saying, like, I would pay him around the Greg Rousseau. I would offer him something between the 18 to 21 mil per year, whatever. It might even be a little bit of an overpay, but because the Giants are in a good cap space, they don't have anybody from the 23 draft class that they have to sign, like I said before. I'd be willing to be like, you know what, let's keep a strength. But if he's not willing to sign, then I'm not playing this game. Right? I'm simply I am actively trying to get rid of you. I'm rolling with Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. In fact, I still feel good about the depth of that position with Chauncey Golston being my 3rd guy, but I got to get a day 2 pick for you.
Yeah, I think where you and I are profoundly aligned is that we don't look at 3 pass rushers as being insanely deep. That's kind of like just the ideal position to be in, is having 3 pass rushers on the edge. This is not a position of wealth where it's just like, well, how do we get draft picks now that we've traded them away for Jackson Dart. It's like, this is not like a wealth of riches over here. So that's part of it. And
Especially when that's like your only position like that on the team.
it really is. It's the only position where you maybe running back. The other thing too is that if you do extend Kayvon with the deal that you suggested, which I think would be very fair, he's still tradable after that point on that contract. That is not an insane contract to inherit. If a team needs a guy like that to put them over the edge, they can also rework the deal once they trade for him. It depends on how that money is divvied out over how many years. But basically what I'm saying is that like the door isn't shut on a trade just because you do extend him. In 2 years down the line, maybe the draft falls a certain way where you wind up just drafting another edge rusher. Who the hell knows? I mean,
And again, I just come back to like Kayvon is not going to change much as a player in year 5, right?
No.
He is who he is. Like we don't need to evaluate what he is, and we know what his role is. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeaux. You're number 3. We're gonna play. You're gonna play a lot, but you are number 3 at the end of the day. And if one of those guys gets injured, then awesome. Not awesome, but you get to play a lot more. And that's why I would go to him and be and I would just be flat out like, I know what you are as a player, and you could get a little bit better, but you're not. I don't think you're going to another tier as a defensive end in the NFL. I think this is around what you are and what you're going to be. We have the same outside linebacker coach, so the whole new coaching stuff, obviously different scheme there, but like I'm testing that, and I don't think you're going to get much. Your market's going to get much better as the third guy. So I'll be like, this is what we're offering you. We're not going to offer you any more than this next year. We know what you are as a player, no matter what your production is next year. Either take it, or just don't expect to resign with this team ever, unless you do really good, and we'll franchise tag you for a year because you're a defensive end or whatever. So like, that's where I would be, and because reality is if you can't agree to a contract right now, what makes you think that you'll be able to agree to one a year from now when the money's only going to go up? And if it goes down, that's a bad thing because that means he had another injury-riddled season or whatever, so I think that's where I kind of end with a hardline stance with Kayvon for the offseason. So now when people tweet at me, I can just respond and say, this is what I would do.
here's a clip.
Yeah. Because, it's this is what's good about these mailbags is fleshing out like all right, not just, have this is an interesting conversation. No, this is exactly what I think on this, which I'm excited for our pending free agent episode in a week or two or whatever, when we flesh out exactly what we would pay Luminor, Flawed, and Wandale and all that. So, I mean, anything else on that? So, you got the player swap.
Yeah, I mean, mainly I'm just not in a rush to get rid of Kayvon.
Yeah, me either. I want to keep him. But if he's not going to sign the contract that I want to keep him at, then I am trying to get rid of him because this 1 year is not overly important to me.
Yeah.
Again, when he is the third guy. If he was the second guy, I don't think we even have this conversation at all, but he is the third guy. All right. Next question.
Next letter in the bag is from @Harry.
It's from Shopify. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list is growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tools that not only help you out, but simplifies everything, can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify has been huge. I mean, if you want to go to our store, it's all through Shopify. In fact, I was looking at like, what's the balance? What's the expenses? Blah, blah, blah. Shopify makes that extremely easy to where I can do it. We could put promo codes on the website. Shopify has actually been good for us. And Shopify is like, you know what? You like us. We want to sponsor the #1 Giants podcast. So let's work with you. And Shopify and me were like, that's a great idea because we're such good friends. So also to the listeners for mailbags, the questions trying to get us to read an ad are good, but you guys are leading into a certain thing that's not necessarily tied to mailbag. So you need to make them a little more broad. But let's talk about Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. You can accelerate your efficiency, whether you're uploading new products or trying to improve existing ones. Shopify is packed with helpful tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise and everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. But what if I get stuck? Shopify's always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. So again, like when I started this business, a lot of questions of what to do. So, starting a merchandise store was one of them. Shopify made that very easy. So tackle all those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. Everything is all in one place, making your life easier and your business operations smoother. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/giants. Go to shopify.com/giants. That's shopify.com/giants. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. I
Shopify,
love sound effects.
have it your way, Shopify. You rule, Shopify.
You rule.
All right, next question.
Next question is from @HarryNary7. Name your most favorite and least favorite hire this offseason. Can I assume that John Harbaugh is off the table?
Yeah, John Harbaugh. It'd be funny if we just came on here. It's like, I kind of like John Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Pretty good,
Hot take here.
Just go. We just do our our full recap of the John Harbaugh episode of like
You just don't even answer it. Just input that video there.
And in 2012, he fired Cam Cameron in the middle of the season. So should we do favorite or least favorite first?
Let's do least favorite first. I think this is interesting either way. If once you take Harbaugh off the table, it gets kind of wacky.
So least favorite, unfortunately, is Matt Nagy.
Same.
So, and here's the reason why, because even the selling point on Nagy doesn't sound very good. Like from our side, the selling point on Nagy is the fact that he hasn't called plays in 4 years, and he doesn't really have a set identity, so he could form around Jackson Dart. So it's more like, maybe we don't know, right? Like I would like to know, you know what I mean? Of like, no, this is or he's coming from this tree. This is his first shot in the NFL. Where it's just like, the Bears, a lot of the stuff's not his fault, but never had a good rushing offense, blah, blah, blah. Also, there's just some traits I don't like. He's been in the NFL since 2008, so 18 years. And for those 18 years, he had 4 years on his own as a head coach. The other 14 were with Andy Reid.
Right.
It's one thing to be, to stay with a guy for a long time and then leave. But I don't like I'm with Andy Reid from Philly to Kansas City. I get my shot. When my shot fails, I'm going to run back to Andy Reid. I'd just like to see these guys go and try and learn from different coaches and spread their wings elsewhere. And now he's technically doing that with the Giants, which could make him, which I think is why he's leaving Kansas City. But
it took him 2 decades to do that.
Yeah. So, and like we said, if he does good and the Giants offense does good, he'll get a head coaching job easy. Like he'll be he'll be an easy get a head coaching candidate.
Yeah.
Head coaching job candidate. But there's just a lot of I don't know and some sample size of that's not good, and not a lot of branches out there to learn from. To really, he's my least favorite of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, he's my least favorite of the offseason. It doesn't mean that I hated it though. But I mean, how about this? John Harbaugh straight up said that Todd Monken was his preferred choice.
Yeah, that's true.
The head coach is literally telling you that he's confident in it. He's got a good plan, and I believe in the plan, and I believe in John Harbaugh. But nevertheless, this was still not what he wanted to happen. So automatically, that gets like 1 vote right there for that. The fact that it's a little bit of a head scratcher, like we talked through this, like the logistics of like he's going to be more the air it out passing game. They brought in Greg Roman to fix the running game, and they're going to get all this figured out and whatever. But like, and that's cool. That sounds like a great plan, but it is complicated, and you have to manage a lot of egos, and you have to develop 2 different sides of the ball, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Like, it's not the kind of hire where like as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's a good, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of the only one that was in a major role where I was like, if I as I'm researching him, I'm just like, nah, you know?
Well, and this is a two-parter question. The second part kind of helps answer the first part. My favorite's Greg Roman.
Okay, go ahead.
Like I measured it by like what hiring did you just been like when it was just announced, like, oh hell yes. And that was Greg Roman for me, like a hell yes hire. Like I really like Dennard Wilson at the end. Like I like what Dennard Wilson's about. I've watched a little bit of film of Tennessee and I like what that's there. We've talked to Tennessee people and we've liked what we've heard. But at the end of the day, it was a bad defense with the Titans. So I'm just not able to tell you for sure what he's going to do is going to translate. Um, and we've also heard, some, just because someone says good things about a guy or he wanted to do good things with certain players with the team, but the players held him back doesn't mean he's a good coach, right? I heard all those same excuses for James Betcher from the Giants media back in the day. I don't think James Betcher is a good defensive coordinator. But I do think I'm going to like Dennard Wilson. I just can't say for sure. But with Greg Roman, I mean, we know what he's going to do. He's going to help build this rushing offense out, right? The top 3 rushing offense all 4 years with the Ravens, top 4 in 3 of his 4 years with the 49ers, number 1 rushing offense both his years with the Bills. And then the Chargers, they were ranked 17th and 12th in rushing. I mean, to be middle of the pack as a rushing team when your offensive line is unbelievably injured, then your running backs, your first year are just bad. Your second year, those guys get injured and Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton. And you got a little more pass happy in your second year because you have Justin Herbert and wanted to lean on him a little more. To have those middle of the pack, that's like, that's a calling card for me. Like, that's good, right? When you look, oh, what happened the last 2 with the years of the Chargers? Like, that's impressive to be middle of the pack and rushing in those ones. He brings a fullback and an identity in the run game, which I've been asking for years with the Giants. And I just have, like, with Greg Roman, I have reasons to believe the Giants are going to have a good run game, which will be good because I want a good run game. But it's also very good for Jackson Dart. It helps ease the stress of him in year 2 with a new system and bigger expectations, right? Where you're not just a rookie and you show good flashes and had good moments. Like, now it's just time to just be good, and be the guy that we are building around going forward. So to have the run game to ease some of that expectation is a huge plus for me. So Greg Roman is my answer for my favorite hire of the offseason.
I went back and forth between Greg Roman and Dennard Wilson. I ended up going Dennard Wilson, and part of the reason why is because I think Greg Roman is tied to like the Todd Monken and Matt Nagy thing. I'm not entirely sure that Greg Roman is hired if Todd Monken is hired.
It's actually interesting, like
Yeah.
a what if, because that's the guy that you got fired for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very weird. The offensive side of it, like everything you said makes sense. I'm with you. I'm excited about the Greg Roman hire. The whole offensive side really being Matt Nagy, but Greg Roman's going to be the run. Like it's just very complicated. So, there are a lot of good reasons to pick Greg Roman. I went with Dennard Wilson because, this secondary is a damn mess, and I'm really happy. I was on board with Dennard Wilson years ago, when he went to Tennessee. I'm on board with it now. He's reuniting with John Harbaugh. He's taking things off of his plate. I like, maybe it's just because I feel like we haven't had a defensive coordinator hire that had like any sort of thought put into it in a while now. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But overall, just somebody who's from the John Harbaugh system of coaching and teaching and being hard on players, and someone who prioritizes intelligence and communication in the back half and all that stuff. That it's like the very opposite of Shane Bowen as a coach, not philosophy, but as a coach. So probably philosophy too, right? Shane Bowen was very much line up and play, whereas Dennard Wilson is not going to be that way at all. It's probably the closest thing to what I would want from a defensive coordinator in my ideal world. If Dennard Wilson could bring more pressure, like pressure more often, he would probably be my favorite defensive coordinator in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see his vision play out and the type of players they bring in to go in that back seven, because we kind of know that he's gonna live with rushing four, right? That's what he's gonna want to do. He's obviously gonna run some of these sim pressures where you drop one guy out, send another, and try and get like. There's gonna be ways to try and get free rushers, but unless you are the Broncos and you're putting all these guys on the line of scrimmage, which you're not getting a ton of free rushers plays. You might get, if you're lucky, you get 3 or 4 times per game. That's really good if you can get some free rushers on those. But for the most teams have a good protection plan in place. At least, as I've been watching film. There's random teams where you'll just take advantage of it and blow them apart, and you'll just have a game where you tee off. But a lot of the good teams have a good protection plan. But the back end is where, that's how you make that front four win, is by making the quarterback not have those easy things. That's what drove me nuts about Shane Bowen. It's man, give this pass rush a chance where you're just playing basic man coverage, and this is easy for the quarterbacks. When you don't have any disguise and you don't have these, if you have Patrick Surtain and Derek Stingley as your 2 outside corners, yeah, this would be good, but you don't. You got, Paulson Adebo and Deontay Banks and Cordell Flott and Drew Phillips. The only guy who was good was good in man coverage last year was Flott. So I'm excited to see what he does, the veterans that he gets in here to try and make that work. The run defense is obviously going to be something that you need to get the right players in here as well, too. There's a big linebacker is wide open of who could be filled in there. The secondary, you have young players, but you see which of those guys are going to be replaced. Will Cordell Flott come back? But I'm very interested to see Dennard Wilson. I have very high hopes for him.
Next question comes from @LMC Disc Doggin. What have been the biggest differences and similarities between the Ravens and Giants draft philosophies over the past 4 to 5 years?
So I went and looked just the last 4 years, since that's, the years that Joe Shane's been the GM of the Giants. I didn't go so much into the differences, just more so looking at what the Ravens have done. So first round, here's the first round picks the last 4 years. Malachi Starks, Nate Wiggins, Zay Flowers, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum. 2 safeties. It's not top 5, they're not picking top 5, Kyle Hamilton being the highest draft pick out of that group. But that's pretty good. Letting the guy who falls, who may not be the cookie cutter, we're going after this or this position, Tyler Linderbaum, getting that guy, right? Malachi Starks falls into that. Kyle Hamilton was, similar. Zay Flowers, that's right where he was projected to go. And same with Nate Wiggins. I don't put a ton of into that. Day 2, you have Mike Green, Emory Jones, offensive lineman, Roger Rosengarten, defensive end, Adisa Isaac, Trenton Simpson, David Ojabo, and then Travis Jones. So here's some of the bullet points that I put together of looking at day 3. I'm not going to list all the day 3 players, but day 3 and then trends. They double tipped Charlie Kohler and Isaiah Likely in the 4th round the same year. That's one, right? When I talk about the double dip, Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst was something I point out, right? My list of my draft day speech from this previous year, talking about the double dip. They drafted a punter and a kicker in the last 4 years. Jordan Stout in the 4th round, Tyler Loop in the 6th round. Size, big tackles who are going to move inside. Daniel Falele and Emory Jones, right? Emory Jones hasn't gotten a chance to play in the NFL yet. Falele didn't work out, but, big size offensive tackles who moved inside. Athletic guys on the offensive line earlier. Tyler Linderbaum, Roger Rosengarten, who I'm not sure how his year 2 was. I know he had a solid year 1. Roger Rosengarten was someone who I'm I really worry about the strength with this guy. And Linderbaum was one of those guys too. So there's that. Trade seed defensive ends who might be a little bit lighter. Mike Green, David Ojabo, Adisa Isaac was probably the group of that guy I don't like very much. 2 safeties in the 1st round, like I said. The positional value. 9 offensive linemen drafted in the last 4 years. The Giants have only drafted 5 in those 4 years. And if you look at the last 3 years, they've drafted 7. The Giants have drafted 2 in the last 3 years. Also, a lot of comp picks, 37 picks in the last 4 years. The Giants have had 31 in the last 4 years. So those are some of the trends that I looked at. And then just like looking at play like Travis Jones, their best day 2 pick. Love that. The defensive tackle out of UConn. Ajabo didn't work out. So a lot of their defensive end picks I've realized haven't worked out, but guess what? We're not drafting defensive ends high.
So I tried not to compare too much. And part of the reason why I went over 6 years, I went back to 2019. But part of the reason why I didn't want to compare too much is because the teams are just in completely different states. Um, the situations are entirely different. The Giants are trying to build up, build away from a prior GM, build through the cap struggle that they were left. And the Ravens were just continuously good year after year. So you're just kind of constantly reloading and albeit from a worse draft position most of the time. It's just a completely different philosophy and methodology. But the 3 biggest things that I noted are all things that you already said. Over the 6 years I looked at, number 1, the Ravens let good players fall to them and let other GMs overthink the draft, which is something the Eagles do very well as well. You don't get worried about players, falling or whatever. If other teams are letting good players fall because they decided on a need and everyone assumed they was going to go number 5 and now it's number 9 and he's still on the board and what's going on, like the Ravens will happily scoop up players that are falling for stupid reasons, which is not something the Giants do. Another really big one, obtaining lots of picks. I don't know if they were all compensatory picks or what, but there were
A lot of them are.
several years between the 3rd and 4th round. There's a lot of picks.
Dude,
and they
there's
use
like 4th rounds where they have like 5 picks. Could
And
you
they
imagine the
use them and
draft
they use
stream?
them well too.
Yeah.
That's you know what that is? That's PFF mock simulator.
Well, what if I move back like this spot and then this spot, and then I have 20 picks in the draft? That's
Yeah.
what that is.
I know. It's like, oh my God. Like, I was looking at some, like, all right, how many damn 4th round? Like, Jordan Stout's your 5th, 4th round pick of the year. What the hell's going on here?
It's crazy. And then the third thing, and this is the most important, I think, at least one offensive lineman every single year, and a lot of times 2, with one of those being always on day 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Almost always. The only time I think they had 2 draft picks of offensive linemen that were not on day 1 or 2 was like when they got like Andrew Voorhees and somebody else like at the very end of the draft. But when you draft every single year an offensive lineman like that, you can afford a year or 2 where you do it but don't prioritize it.
Yeah, they drafted a lot of offensive linemen. That was like, like I said, I looked at the last 4 years, 2 every year. And sometimes they're like, they bring him in for a year, like Ben Bredesen. They traded Ben Bredesen to the Giants for like, hey, this guy's doesn't have a clear path to playing anytime soon. We'll trade him to you guys.
There's no such thing in the NFL as obtaining too many at one position, because then they just become trade assets for you and they can become anything you want. So if a good offensive lineman is falling and you don't need or love anybody in that range, there's no problem with taking a good offensive lineman, even if you can't use him right away. Worst case scenario, you end up trading the guy you just drafted. Better scenario is the guy you have in front of him on the depth chart is hitting a payday. You let him walk and it's like nothing ever happened.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff. Now, again, there's definitely misses if
There's
there was
misses.
too, like David Ajabo, a miss, right? A guy that fell because of injury, they take a chance on him. We'll see what Mike Green turns out. He's someone who fell because of being a scumbag.
Yes.
Adisa Isaac was probably the pick when I looked at that. I was like, ew, I hate you guys took that guy on day 2.
But it's like when you're 13 and 3,
I-
you can take risks.
Yeah, athletic, speedy linebackers, right? Trenton Simpson, right? Run and chase type of guy. Patrick Queen, you go back, they took him in the 1st round. So definitely some good stuff. The double dip. Next question.
Next question is from @DougieFresh86. What are your thoughts on the way the front office is now structured and how this could seal Joe Schoen's fate?
I don't want to get too much into like the seals Joe Schoen fate, but I am very interested in what the Don Aponte, like what exactly is Don Aponte doing? And if you don't know, Don Aponte was hired who's to be the senior VP of football operations and strategy. She most recently has been working for the NFL as their chief administrator of football operations for 9 years, since 2017. And you're like, wow, how does that make her the person for the job for this? Well, before that, She was with the Dolphins from 2010 to 16 as a senior VP of football operations and then executive VP of football administration. So very similar to what she's doing now. With the Browns for 2 years, VP of football administration. Worked with the NFL again as VP of labor finance in 2006 2008, and then got her way up from the Jets, going from an accountant to a salary cap analyst, pro personnel assistant, manager of football administration, and then senior director of football administration. So she's held similar, if not the same role for the Giants. But the headline out of it, and we talked about it with Ryan Dunleavy in the Ian O'Connor article, is that she reports to John Harbaugh. And the Giants describe her job title as the exact same as what Kevin Abrams was, where she is responsible for strategic planning for football operations, analytics, salary cap management, player contract negotiations, compliance, and working closely with the college and pro personnel departments. Now, Grump, through that, I can put together contract management, right? Salary cap stuff, that's stuff that Kevin Abrams did. Okay, cool. Analytics, building out the analytics staff. Okay, understand what that is. Compliance, doing all the right things, making sure you're doing things the correct way. Here's where my question is. How this all works. Working closely with the college and pro personnel departments. What does that look like? And we know that she reports to John Harbaugh. Like I said, that was the big thing. Oh, she reports to John Harbaugh. Usually this is a title within the Giants that would report to the GM. So we know that she reports to John Harbaugh, but who reports to her is my question, right? Because that's a big title. Who is reporting to her? And is that people from the pro personnel department and pro scouts and college scouts? Like, are those people reporting to her, or are they only reporting to Joe Schoen? That's kind of the questions, and I hope their beat reporters ask something about that, of like, what does that mean, working closely with the college and pro personnel departments to John Harbaugh, and what that means. She's obviously got crossover with Joe Schoen and Dennis Hickey when Dennis Hickey was a GM for the Dolphins, so I'm sure there's some comfortability there. But that's my question. I know when we do interviews, we'll talk about like Joe Schoen's future. Could this be, is he going to get a contract extension? Could he be out after the draft? I'm more interested in to see like how is this working in the here and now. Sorry, I just rambled for a long time.
No. I think it's I think I'm sort of done talking about Joe Schoen in general, and there's a main reason for it is either the Giants do really because he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see a long time future for Joe Schoen, but like if they don't perform in a way that the Maras or Harbaugh find sufficient, I think Joe Schoen is gone at the end of the year. If they do, either one of two things happens. Either they just continue their honky-dory relationship where Joe Schoen has such a minor role that no one cares because John Harbaugh is running the show, or Joe Schoen doesn't like that minor role and ego gets in there, whatever, and he just leaves on his own. So it doesn't matter. Either he's fired, he leaves on his own, or he has such a minor role that when things go wrong, we're not really blaming Joe Schoen because we know he's not running the show. So I don't really care so much about that, but the structure is definitely interesting.
I disagree with the minor role part. I don't want him having a minor role. I either want him gone or having a major, like he's the GM of the team. Like John Harbaugh cannot be run. John Harbaugh, is obviously gets final say on stuff, but he should not be running the draft. That is just
Thank you.
way too much, and we need someone that John Harbaugh trusts in that. If John Harbaugh is running the draft, I think this will look back and say this failed because of that. I do not want that. So I want him to have someone that he trusts, whether that's Joe Schoen or somebody else. So that's the only part I disagree with. I don't want him to have a minor role. I want him, the GM of the team, to have a major role regardless.
Neither do I, but my fear is, and by the way, I echo everything that you're saying, but my fear is that if the Giants do really well this year, let's just say we have another 2022 or something, not in terms of, record or ending, but just in terms of overachieving what was the expectation in the first year, right? My fear is that the perspective becomes, okay, this is working. And I mean this as in like the relationship at the upper level between Harbaugh, Schoen, Hickey, Chris Mara, however the hell he fits into all this, all of that. My fear is that complacent with success at that level. I know John Harbaugh believes in his principles and philosophies for everything from him down, but from him up is where I'm like worried about it. And let's be absolutely clear. I wanted John Harbaugh. I was saying like, get the checkbook out, write down whatever number he wants, that kind of thing. At the same time, I do not view John Harbaugh as being infallible to the point where he does not get checks and balances.
Correct.
John Harbaugh has a very specific job, and I'm not saying Joe Schoen has to be those checks and balances, but right now that's the position that he's filling, is to be those checks and balances and make sure that John Harbaugh should not get a blank slate to just do whatever he wants because he's had success. I don't think that he had a carte blanche to do whatever he wanted in Baltimore. And that's what got them success, is that he didn't have carte blanche there. He had a major role. It was definitely his operation, but there were other people in that room, like you said, that he trusted and had a great relationship with. And, that I think eventually needs to be, maybe Don Aponte is sort of the bridge between Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh. I don't think so.
Yeah, and then that's just kind of, those are the things where I was like, I don't know. Like I'd like, and again, like I said, I would like if a media member asked John Harbaugh at the combine next week, saying like, we know Don Aponte reports to you. Who reports to Don? Like what departments report to Don Aponte? Like are underneath Don Aponte, or even ask directly, is pro scouting and college scouting? She works closely with them. Are they reporting to her, or are they reporting to Joe Schoen? So that's kind of my question. Is exactly because she hasn't been picking free agents and draft picks,
No.
and part of that since 2016, and we don't even know exactly what she was doing in that department. 2016. She wasn't the GM. Dennis Hickey was with the Dolphins. All right, next question.
Next question's from @MichaelLovesTwitter. What do you guys think about the idea of the Giants adopting a version of the Commanders' free agency strategy from the 2024 offseason? Instead of signing 1 to 2 major guys and filling out your roster with minimum contracts, you sign 5 to 6 guys with starting level capabilities.
I like the idea of it. Obviously, the Giants need to make decisions on their own pending free agents. But, I was looking at some of the free agents that are available. This is where you can do that, is like the guys who are going to be cut in the next 2 weeks. And those guys don't count against the comp pick formula, which is a big part of Baltimore, as you try and figure out this type of run. Like, and there's other guys that, like, I just did a quick look at free agency, and I actually sorted by age to look at some of the older guys. And I put together like a little mini Commanders thing, what they did. And this is what they did. And I remember doing football today. I mean, like, they're built. I don't know if this defense will be good, but I know they're building it a year one and Dan Quinn's image to get through a year. I think their mistake is they kind of did that 2 years in a row. So they got Bobby Wagner, work with Dan Quinn in Seattle to run linebacker, runs that system. They got a blitzing linebacker from the Panthers and Frankie Louvu to go next to him. They got the 2 backup defensive ends from the Cowboys, Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong, lighter, quicker, penetrating type of players. Got the versatile safety, Jeremy Chin, who does a lot of good stuff at the line of scrimmage. So they got guys that fit a Dan Quinn defense, even though they weren't the top guys. So I kind of just went through like a speed run of looking at free agency and being like, these are guys that could fit a Dennard Wilson defense, right? Alohi Gilman, right? He worked with the Ravens and the Chargers. Geno Stone, that was a guy who had 7 interceptions with Dennard Wilson as DB coach as a third safety. Those are 2 free agents who won't get big money at the safety spot. Demario Davis, 37 years old, but he could be someone that could kind of be like the leader of the defense in a sense. Denzel Perryman, who's been a starter for Jesse Minter and been around for a long time. Quincy Williams, right? A fast run and chase linebacker that the Jets let go. So like I just went and looked at like, those are guys that aren't going to break the bank that could be good role-playing starters for you. Corner, it's hard to kind of find some of those guys, but you know what? Maybe they end up getting cut as we go through the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I would be on board with that because free agency is getting worse and worse every year, it feels like, because teams are locking up their good players and not letting them hit free agency with the way the cap keeps on going up every year. That I think spending at the top of free agency every year is probably not the best plan of attack, unless it's a guy that's coming from a team that has been at the brim of spending and they had to let a really good player go.
I mean, I feel like I asked this question because I think I've been saying for weeks now that like this is a really good way to turn a franchise around quickly is not to go out there and get all the best free agents. It's to get as many veterans in there, fill out your depth chart, right? Like fill all your supposed holes before you get to the draft. And really the idea is to get as many guys as starters as you can, where when you look at them, when I mention the name to you, you go, he's not bad, but it would be a lot better if he wasn't your starter. If you can get a whole depth chart of those guys before the draft, then you can just move those guys into depth roles as you draft or, hit cut down day from other teams, whatever, and build through the years. I think that way you raise your floor a lot more, while not necessarily raising your ceiling the same way as if you swung big in free agency and the draft to fill all your biggest holes. But I think by moving the floor and you just move things incrementally, you're doing it in a much more structured and stable way so that you don't have the wild swing from year 1 to year 2 like Washington did. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels' arm was going the wrong direction for a portion of the season this year, but Washington did not look like Washington of the year before for the entire season.
Yeah, and one of the issues with that Commanders, even the year they went to the NFC Championship, is they weren't a good defense.
No.
The main issue was, like I said, when I looked at free agency, I didn't see the answers in this. Their cornerbacks sucked.
Yeah.
And they played a lot of man coverage in that. So we're not going to play a lot of man coverage. But, DBs are going to be a huge part of what we're doing. But I just kind of looked at safety linebacker. And I'm like, man, that's Holland being here and the idea of drafting Caleb Downs makes safety a little question mark. Like, if you're drafting Caleb Downs, what are you doing with the other two guys? But, like, Alohi Gilman, Geno Stone, those are guys who could work. Linebacker, Quincy Williams. You don't think Quincy Williams would be a nice number 2 linebacker for a Harbaugh, Dennard Wilson defense for a year or two while you try and draft and replace him eventually? So, yeah, good stuff. All right, next question.
Great question. Michael loves Twitter. At Barton,
Not a question. I keep on asking you to ask the next question. There's no questions. Giant stories.
Oh, okay.
Let's do Giant stories, and then if we have time for the last question,
That's fine.
then we'll.
Hit me with some stories.
All right, we don't have music this time. Time for Giant stories.
Great story.
Giant stories. Jackson Dart was riding the bull happy. Isaiah Hodgins got a custom gun. Tyrone Tracy was at a fashion show. Wait, he wasn't at the fashion show. He was in it. He was wearing a fur coat. It was fur coat on the inside, leather on the outside. Paulson Adebo was playing. He posted a clip. He wasn't necessarily doing this. I forget what the guy's called, but he's like, when you want to be as successful as you want to breathe. I met him at the beach and I held him underwater. It's an all-time workout video. Wandale Robinson was at a seafood boil. Bobby Okereke was in Japan. Chris Board was in Spain. Darius Moasau was playing pickleball. And Thomas Fidoni's big-ass dogs were playing in the snow and growling at each other, but they weren't being mean. That's just how they play. Grump, what piques your interest here?
All right, look, we got to start with Jackson Dart riding the bull. I mean, like, I know he's a Utah kid, and this is probably something he has experience doing.
It was Oxford, Mississippi, though, because Trinidad Chambliss was doing it, too.
No, I know, but I mean, I just, in general, in terms of his life story, like, I know he was at Ole Miss, but that seems like an out west sort of thing more than a Mississippi thing. I don't know. Could you ever be caught dead riding the bull? I'm not judging Jackson.
If I was
I'm
drunk
just saying,
enough, yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So and this funny, I was at Daytona Speed Weeks last weekend. Dodge Ram was like doing, trying to getting back into the sport and doing a big promotion. They had a riding electric bull there, but you had to blow in a breathalyzer first.
oh, that's probably because people get hurt.
Yeah, well, I responded to the guy that tweeted about that, and I was like, well, you have to be above a certain BAC to ride? Well, what's so? Because I feel like you got to be above a certain BAC to be riding the electric bull.
Well, I'll say this: Jackson Dart knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he was really good at it. Like,
Yeah,
like we didn't like if he got thrown off of it, I feel like we would have gotten the video of him being thrown off of it.
well, that would have been more embarrassing. I'm perfectly comfortable with him going up there and actually being good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of chutzpah to be getting up on the mechanical bull. I'll say that. I couldn't do it.
It's also, if you look at the video, you see 30 people like this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that was not like, oh, Jackson was at a bar and got drunk and then jumped on the bull. It's like everyone knew Jackson was there and what he was going to do. Like, they was very much the center of attention for that.
Yeah, it was like almost like it was an Ole Miss mechanical bull contest.
It might have been. I mean, do we even know the name of the bar?
I'm sure we do. I don't have it in my Giant Stories notes though.
Well, that's just you slipping. But it could have been like an Old Miss bar. There's not a lot going on around in Mississippi, so.
Yeah. Do you ever want to go to Japan?
Bobby Okereke does strike me as the guy who would be like really into Japan. Do I want to go? Actually, yes. My sister-in-law went just this past summer and shared a bunch of videos and stuff with us, and it just looks super cool. But I like traveling and I like going to different places, so I can understand people. The flight, I don't want to do.
Yeah. So I love traveling too, right? Like I know everyone says they like traveling, but I try and we try and go and do things and visit places, whatever, like, and embrace it. I feel like I would be in Japan and be like, why? What do we do? We're just in Japan. What do we do here? Like, I don't know what I would do in Japan.
I mean, that's kind of, you wouldn't go to a baseball game?
Yeah, but I'd rather go to an American baseball game.
Would you really? Have you seen the stadiums over there?
I mean, maybe I would, but I'm saying like, I wouldn't go to Japan to go to like baseball
No.
being first on the list is like, that's kind of my point.
Yeah, I mean,
I think if like, there's like obviously like video games, anime, stuff like that, but I'm just not as into that. I know people who are.
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like,
And
there is,
but I'm saying for me personally, I don't.
right.
Listen, I'll travel. I want to go. I want to go everywhere. So I guess part of me doesn't want to go to Japan. I almost had to go to Vietnam for this show.
I'd go to Japan before Vietnam, no question.
Yeah, but I'm looking at like when I put together the list of all the countries, I just don't think like the Asian countries I feel like are just towards the bottom for me. It's like they just don't do it for me. You know what I mean?
I understand that. I'm a little bit, I don't know. I would have been a little bit surprised if you said that was high on your list, I guess. Just, I don't know. I wouldn't have expected you to say that.
Yeah.
It's not super duper. I think if I were younger, it would have been higher on my list, but I'm not. But I would still want to go. Yeah, I still think there's plenty of really cool stuff to do there, but it's more on the relaxing side, I think. I think I would enjoy like museums and cherry blossom season and riding a bullet train and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would do all that stuff too. Chris Board in Spain. Obviously,
Yeah, I would like to go to Spain for sure.
This is not about Chris Board's Spain trip, but he was a very like a man, you're really old type of player because when the Giants signed him, I was like, oh, 7-year pro. And then I see high school. It's like Timber Creek High School. I'm like, oh my gosh, my best friend from college, my teammate, he went to high school at Timber Creek. He played there. He's actually the guy who forced 2 fumbles on Sandro Platzkummer in Austria when the Giants signed Sandro Platzkummer. And so I went to go text him like, hey, did you play with this guy? And then I realized like Chris Board, who's like been in the NFL for 8 years, would have
He's younger.
graduated way less, like 3 or 4 years after us. I'm like, oh no, he didn't play with my friend Cam. Darius Moathon playing pickleball. Pickleball is one of those things I know that I'm going to get really into at some point. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, so especially here, I moved here and there's like pickleball everywhere down here. I think the day we moved here, we went for like a walk and we're like, oh, it looks like there's some like restaurants and stuff like around the corner. Let's go there. And we turned the corner and there was just like a full on, like very competitive, shirts off, very sweaty pickleball game going on. I was like, oh my God. And then like there's like a whole place called Pickle Bar that's like a bar and arcade, but like they have like 7 pickleball courts. I had no idea pickleball had reached this level. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. There's like, I was never good enough at tennis to not just be chasing the ball for the entire time I was playing. But pickleball,
Tennis, you got to be like an expert at. Like,
well, not only that, but like
absolutely play
you have to
tennis.
be, you have to be playing against someone who's equal to you at all times.
Yeah. Like I pride myself. I don't think I'm the most athletic guy in the world, but I am very much like, hey, I can show up and play every sport and run around and know what I'm doing, except tennis. Tennis, me and my friends went out and tried to play it. And I'm like, this sucks. We can't do any of this shit.
Yeah.
So
It's hard, man.
yeah, you just have to be a tennis player. Like that has to become your thing if you want to do tennis.
But pickleball, especially when it's like doubles and stuff, like I have a very strong feeling that I'm going to be very competitive about pickleball at some point.
Yeah, it's just like big ping pong. It's big ping pong.
It's exactly what it is.
Um,
Tracy, we found out, was actually in the fashion show that he went to last week.
yeah,
Ah, interesting.
yeah, interesting.
Fur coat, leather inside. Hates animals. There you go, PETA.
It was actually fur on the inside, leather on the out. So I'm assuming it was fur. I don't think it's fake fur
I would hope not. It'd be weird.
at a fashion show. I just couldn't imagine being an NFL player and like now I'm going to walk the runway. I've never understood.
Dude, I don't. What I don't understand.
Are like, I want to get into fashion. I'm like, I didn't have a single teammate growing up who had like any like, I want to get into. I don't know what happens where these athletes get to like 22, 23 years old. And it's like, I want to be into fashion. It's a good outlet, I guess, but I didn't have a single teammate who was like, fashion is my passion.
Yeah, I don't get it, but I'm not surprised because I'm sure the circles that you end up running in, I'm sure like the women that you end up meeting and stuff when you do that kind of thing is very alluring for like a 25, 26-year-old. But I'm not surprised. And this is the thing I really don't understand or care about or any of this stuff is like the game day walking into work fashion show that the NFL does every week.
Oh yeah,
I hate it, bro. I hate that shit so much. I hate Matt Collins wearing goofy costumes. Like I don't care what you wore to work. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old.
yeah, you are. But I also am like, like I'm also like when I see Kayvon, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like you just what are you wearing? I understand why
I get wanting to look
right,
like awesome, right? Yeah, I get it.
T-shirt, but like when like Kayvon's wearing like a no shirt and like a leather like vest and like crazy baggy leather jeans or I'm a leather pants. I'm like, oh, now you just walk in the locker room and take that off. Like that's.
They're never wearing it for the post-game press conference either, so it's literally just for that. And I also,
Kadarius Toney and the Trap Star stuff. With Kadarius Toney, he could do it. He could do whatever he wants.
I will say I understand that there is probably a transaction there. Like, wear this and I'll give you money. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, like maybe I'm saying it's like, oh, I just put an addition on my kitchen because I wore this stupid vest that you're complaining about. So I mean,
that could be it.
I get it, but it's still weird and never used to happen.
Yeah,
and like the way they do WNBA players too is like they like I don't know, never mind.
I haven't seen those ones. Remember when the NBA was like, you have to wear a suit, and I was like, this is really.
I don't know.
Oh, that was like legitimately like, all right, so this is just racist. Like, stop wearing that crap. I was like that. I guess it was like
to say if there was one league where that definitely wasn't gonna work, I would have picked the NBA.
Yeah, that was one. I remember that and being like, this seems really pointed and stupid, right? Like this is. What are you trying to do here? All right, let's do the last question. I know we're over an hour, but let's just do the last question. We'll go quick with it.
I think it is quick. At Barton DeShiel says, what players currently in the roster do you see most and least benefiting from Dennard Wilson being the DC? And I'll tell you right up front, I missed the part where it said least, so I only
let's leave that out. Let's make it quick and let's finish positively.
All right, I'll let you talk, but I'm just gonna hit you with my two guys that I said most benefit: Tyler Nubin and Abdul Carter. Okay, you go.
Okay. Abdul Carter, I think, is just he's a guy, and I'm not worried about scheme. I think Paulson Adebo.
Okay.
Paulson Adebo, press zone corner. Like, I think he fits exactly. He's not going to be put in a ton of just man coverage. He's a smart player. He's looking for pass breakups and interceptions, taking chances, giving the green light, the cheat at times. Like, I think Paulson Adebo. Tyler Newman is the one where I go back and forth, where I think it could go both ways. Where it could be like, hey, his lack of athleticism, they just don't want to use him, and he hasn't put together ball production, they don't want to use him. Or it's like, hey, this is a smart player who does have some versatility. He does fit, but he's just playing a little more box with me. We're not playing him deep.
Well, I mean, so that's part of where I think the system is going to help him. And by system, I mean the overall structure too, right? Like what Dennard Wilson wants from his defense versus what John Harbaugh is going to get from what he has. Tyler Newman is on the third year of a rookie contract. I don't know that he's really someone that can be dealt anywhere based on his production from the first 2 years. It's going to yield any return that you wouldn't get better out of by just putting him in the best possible situation. So if they look at him and they're like, well, this is a smart guy who's got lack of athleticism, maybe he just belongs in the box, like you and Dunleavy were talking about, possibly making him a linebacker or whatever.
Can I say something? I don't agree with Dunleavy about moving in the. He's not going to play linebacker.
No,
But
but I do think
people say, "Oh, you can't move him down to the box, he's got a tackling issue." His tackling issue is coming from deep and not having the athleticism and the angles. When you put him in the box, he's actually a good tackler.
the angles mean so much less.
And he's strong, and he's actually good in that role. The tackling is not a form tackling or strength issue. There's times where that has happened, but it's more of like he just doesn't have the athleticism to run and chase and trust his angles.
Right. Agreed. And I think that will benefit him is the structure. I don't think Tyler Newman could be any more fucked up by a lack of attention to detail and practice methods than he's been. So I think just the influx of a situation where they're going to, get this ironed out and be professional is going to help him tremendously.
Yeah.
And I said Abdul Carter because I think that based on his first season, even early in the season, I know obviously just like practice methods and things like that helped him in the second half of the season. Also just getting that first half out of the way and just acclimating to NFL game and all that other stuff. But he's the guy where it's just like, man, if the quarterback held onto the ball for one more tick, not even a second, just like hundredths of a second, and Dennard Wilson disguising is going to help Abdul Carter more than Kayvon Thibodeaux and Brian Burns.
I like that. So you're saying it helps his production, not changes him as a player.
No,
also
change him as a player.
I want to go back to Tyler Newman, and this is not going to be a quick question because I'm having fun with the Carter thing. Something I learned when I looked at the Ravens draft classes for that previous question, it felt like, man, you guys are looking for the Abdul Carter type, but you're just never high enough in the draft to get that type of player. And like when you looked at Mike Green, David Ojabo, Adisa Isaac, where it's like, lighter, even you go back to Odafe Owe, another guy from Penn State, where it's like, you're kind of looking for this guy. You're just not ever high enough to get him.
Right.
And now you just have him because we sucked and had the third overall pick and we got the draft in. So
you're welcome.
That did make me feel like, because I know we want some run defending edges. We always want you want your defensive ends to be squeeze the edge. I'm like, how does Abdul work in that? That didn't make me feel a little bit better about him getting a ton of playing time and fitting with Dennard Wilson. But I agree, that's a good point where if you're making the quarterback think and hold on to the ball longer, that's going to help Abdul Carter more so than any player on this team when it comes to statistical production. Newman, but like I said, we mentioned all those things for Newman. It could be the flip, though, where it hurts him the worst, where they're like, we're drafting Caleb Downs, Javon Holland's better than you. We also brought in Geno Stone, and you're actually out. Like, I didn't.
You're gonna be Dane Belton now.
Yeah, like you're not even the third, like, because there's gonna be some unpopular moves. Like we won't get into the hurt part, but I said Darius out. Like when people ask me what could be a surprise cut, right? When that becomes a question in July and August, mine unfortunately is gonna be Darius Alexander. Yeah. Where it's like we've got pass rushers. He was a terrible run defender. He had a bad rookie year. He had some flashes, but I thought his flashes were very few. Third round pick, not a very high. Like that's the one that could be the surprise.
And also, there's good
not going to
rushing
predict it because it could be the fifth guy. That's what I'm saying. So I that could be a surprise one. because there's going to be some type of surprise with a totally new coaching staff and almost feels like a full new regime with John Harbaugh running the ship. That's one. But Newman is the one I go back and forth where I'm like, this could be great for him, or he could just be out of the rotation and not playing.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to lean on the optimistic side for now.
Yeah,
We'll see once John Harbaugh actually starts doing things with players.
we'll know by the end of the draft.
It's true
how they feel about him.
Well, free agency opens up in a week, right? 2 weeks.
I think 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks.
So, all right, that was fun. Long episode, but a fun episode. We'll be back next week. We're kicking off next week's episode on Monday with a Jackson Dart rookie review. Very excited for that one. You guys saw me do the third down deep, study on him. I'm doing the deep ball. I'm actually rewatching every Jackson Dart throw or play from the last year. Not all 22 version, just broadcast to kind of get a remembrance and feel of some things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited about that. So we're going to break down Jackson Dart from every angle. So appreciate you guys. We will see you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.